Thank you for stopping by Ballistic Barbecue. On today's video, we are going to be making old-fashioned glazed baby back ribs on the pit barrel cooker. Let's get going. Okay, when I said old-fashioned at the opening of this video, I wasn't really referring to like old-timey recipe. I was referring to the glaze I'm going to make, which is inspired by actually an old-timey recipe, my favorite cocktail, the old-fashioned. And there are two ways that you'll see the old-fashioned served up. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways, but as far as spirits, it's usually going to be bourbon or rye. And for this particular recipe, we're paying homage to Kentucky. We're going to use bourbon. So I have here 2 racks of baby back ribs. I went ahead and pulled the membranes off and just did some very, very light trimming. First thing I'm going to do is take some, you guessed it, bourbon, and this is a smoked maple bourbon. I thought it'd be perfect for, a glaze. I'm just going to kind of slather the ribs with some of this bourbon and use this as a binder for the rubs. Okay, now I have here some of Cosmo Q's Dirty Bird, and I'm just going to do a kind of a light coating of this. I want to bring out some of this, there's a nice kind of a sweet spicy heat in this that I want to bring out as my first flavor. For the next layer, I'm going to use another one of Cosmo's rubs. This is the Sweet Honey Pecan. Now we're going to go ahead and hook these things. So I'm going to go 2 bones down in the thick meaty end of these ribs. Okay, the pit barrel is about ready. Let me move the cameras around a little bit and then we'll get to cooking. Pit barrel's all ready to go, and I'll tell you what, I have went from exclusively using briquettes to lump charcoal on this thing, and what a difference. I mean, this thing just thrives on lump charcoal. It always did a great job with the briquettes, but lump, even better. Okay, so again, we're keeping on theme here. So I have here just a handful of wood chips, and these are wood chips from bourbon barrels. Throw these in here. Rack number 1. Rack number 2. So I'm just going to be monitoring the cook. I always say I'll spritz them if they're looking a little dry. I found very rarely do I have to do that with this. It's just a very moist environment inside the pit here. Let's go ahead and make that glaze. Okay, now for that glaze. Easy glaze. We're just trying to kind of, again, capture the spirit, so to speak, of that cocktail, the old-fashioned. So I have here 2 cups of bitter orange juice, and this is the same orange juice that I would use in a mojo. That was 2 cups. I have here 1.5 cups of Demerara sugar, and basically this is the same sugar you would use in an old-fashioned, traditional old-fashioned, and it's cane sugar. It's unbleached, just sort of a raw sugar. So a turbinado sugar would work fine. I have here 1/2 cup of that. This is that smoked maple bourbon. About 4 dashes of aromatic bitters. 4 dashes. I like orange bitters in mine. This is 1 tablespoon of pickling spice. It's got a lot of goodness in there. Pinch of salt. I'll add more if I need it later. A little black pepper. Now the real purists when it comes to old fashions may disagree here, but I like a Luxardo cherry, not those cheap red cherries. I'll show you a Luxardo cherry. So you can see the difference there. It's a really dark cherry. I like one of those as a garnish in my old fashioned. A lot of the nicer restaurants, that's what they'll put in there. And I'm going to go with about, I don't know, a couple teaspoons of juice from the Luxardo cherry jar. So basically all I'm going to do is I want to make sure obviously all that sugar gets melted, and I'm going to bring this up to a boil, lower the heat just a tad, and I'm going to let it simmer until it gets the consistency I'm looking for. We're making a glaze. I want a glaze consistency. So it's all about just paying attention to this, making sure that it doesn't reduce into nothing and catch on fire. We're 2 hours in, just wanted to give you guys a little peek. They're coming along really good. Look at that, it's gorgeous color. You can see they're wet. I have not misted these one time. They're just, it's just such a nice moist environment inside this barrel. So they're not done yet. I just want to see a little bit more pull away from the bone. I want to see a little bit more tenderness. I'm going to take a peek in probably 45 minutes or so, see where they're at. And I'm going to kind of gauge my time to where about 15-20 minutes before these are done, before I'm going to pull them. I'll hit them with that glaze just to kind of get it to set a little bit. Probably get a little bit of smoke into the glaze as well. We're 3 hours in. These things are tender and ready to be glazed. So you can see the bones pulling away there, but more than that, these things are just, I mean, probe tender. I mean, look at that, it's crazy. So I do not want fall off the bone ribs, but I want a nice tender bite. So very important, I have these over setting on a table. I'm going to glaze them. Whenever you do something like that, just make sure you get the lid back on the pit barrel. Keep the temp where you want it to be. Now on the glaze, as it was reducing, I was tasting it, and I felt like it needed a little bit more salt and a little bit more heat. And you know, in that pickling spice, there's actually crushed red pepper, but it still needed a little bit more heat. So I pumped up the salt just a little bit, and I added a pinch of cayenne pepper, dialed it in. It's nice and citrusy, not too sweet. It's got a nice tang to it and a little teeny bit of heat. It's good stuff. This rack got a little dark here. That's just the sugar. It actually tastes pretty darn good, that kind of burnt sugar flavor. But this other rack here is perfect. So an old fashioned is usually garnished with a twist of orange peel and or lemon peel. So I have fresh orange here, microplane. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of orange zest. Little lemon zest. This smells crazy. All right, let's get these back on the pit. All right, so again, 15-20 minutes, these guys are coming off. So here they are. I cannot tell you how happy I am with just the look, but the smell, they smell so good, so good. Now these are actually my dinner, and I'm the only one home right now, so I'm not going to cut every bone here. I'm just going to cut a nice sample, give you guys a try, give me a try. Just don't want to upset my wife or kid. All right, let's see here. Wow, nice and tender. So I'm cutting more than one because of a stupid fly that got in my shot. So anyway, I guess it's my victory though. So here, check that out. Nice smoke ring. Just a nice citrus smell coming off. These are good. I mean, really good. Wow. I'm not exaggerating when I say that these are some of the best baby back ribs that I've ever made, that I've ever had. They're good. The sauce, that glaze, it was honestly just perfect. It was a little bit of savory, had a nice kind of a tang to it. A little bit of heat, a little bit of sweet. It wasn't too sweet, wasn't too sweet at all. And then combined with those layers of the different rubs, those two rubs, perfect. And the pit barrel cooker rocked it. This is insane. I'll be doing this again. So I'll have the recipe for the glaze down below, all the steps I took down below, and I'm also going to include 2 recipes for the classic old fashioned. So if you've never had one, try it. It's just such a historic drink. I mean, I really enjoy like food history, and this has a lot of history to it, which I think is cool. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. Keep the suggestions coming in. See you in the next video. Cheers.